Our guest this week is a product of the Tottenham youth system, played for Brentford, Fulham, and is now at Brighton. David Button, welcome to the podcast.
Yep, no, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
David, so let's first start with Spurs. So you came through the youth system at Tottenham. How was that for you?
Yeah, obviously a great experience. Growing up as a Spurs fan and being able to join them at 9 years old was obviously a bit of a dream come true. Managed to make one appearance as well, which I still cling on to. And it was I look back with it with fond memories.
So obviously moving on after that and then going out on loan. How does the loan system affect players? Because there's so much talk about it at the moment, isn't it? I think Chelsea have 40-something players out on loan. Is it a positive experience for a young player and specifically a goalkeeper?
Yeah, I think so. I certainly look back at it as a key part of my development, and it's definitely something that I'd recommend to younger goalkeepers to get as many games as they can do, really.
Obviously, I know Tony Parks was a big part of your development when you were younger. Was he a big reason as to why you went on so many loans?
I think so. I think a lot of them were under his his guide, so to speak. He came in when I was 19, and I'd worked with him previously at England, so. It was a strange time really, because the under 23s league that's been created now wasn't around when I was there. So if you look back at a lot of the players around my sort of age, a lot of them went on loan to get that experience, because it's like I say, it's either that you're going and testing yourself against men, or you're sitting in a reserve team that's not involved in any league, has probably got 10 players training, and you're sort of just going through the motions. So I often get asked, like, why have I been on so many loans, as though it's a bad thing. But for me, I could have easily sat there and done nothing and been quite comfortable and happy at Spurs, but I didn't want that. I wanted to go out and push myself in other ways and to experience men's football and get as many games as I could.
What was your best loan?
My favourite was probably Shrewsbury.
Was it really?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's a big part of what we obviously talk about, the psychology of football. But I just loved it there. I felt really at home. Got on with all the players, and it was just a happy time for me. So I think that reflected on the pitch. Obviously it was League Two, so you could arguably say that I should pick a championship loan or whatever I've had as being a slightly better one, but that one certainly sticks out in my mind in terms of how I felt and my performances as well.
And toughest?
Toughest, certainly Bournemouth, which was my
really?
first loan as in the league. Obviously, I've been at Grays before that, playing in the conference. But I had a real tough time at Bournemouth. Can't remember how many games I played in the end. Probably fully played 4 games and made as many mistakes.
They didn't make up a song for you then,
no? Not when I was there. I've had a few since I've been back.
So you talk about Spurs in particular. 5 years you were a pro there, right? Around 5 years?
Yeah, 5-6 years, yeah.
That one game, that 9 minutes, did you think after that, this is my chance now, I'm in?
Not really, to be honest. Obviously, I'd been called back from a loan due to an injury to Gomez. I suppose technically then I was second choice. I sat on the bench in a few Premier League games, but the game, I think they were winning 5-0 or something already, so he's looked around at the bench and thought, like, it was obviously a nice thing for him to do rather than
you didn't come on through injury?
No, it wasn't through injury, no.
Oh, right.
Yeah, which was, I don't know, probably strange and probably hasn't happened a lot. But
Was that under Harry Redknapp, that? Sorry.
That was Harry Redknapp, yeah.
Okay.
But
Did you keep a clean sheet?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
there can't be too many goalkeepers in Tottenham's history that have not
100%
never conceded a goal.
100% record.
Technically, you're our best ever keeper. Yeah. Should we talk about, it's still a moment that Brentford fans talk about. It really is. 2013, it's a big turning point in your career because you dislodged Richard Lee I mean, arguably
Not really true.
the man.
100% true.
The cult hero of Brentford, yeah.
Oh, do you know what? At Griffin Park, they still thank you for this. You dislodged Richard Lee as Brentford's number one. Rich, okay, you said it. What really happened?
Well, I hadn't played the previous season. I was back up to Simon Moore for the majority of the season. Then obviously Si went to Cardiff, and you came in.
Yeah, and you were injured when I signed.
I was injured. This is true.
Don't
I
soften
was,
it for him.
I was out for 7
castle
months with a shoulder injury.
Was Rich encouraging as a kind of an elder statesman? Was he encouraging?
Not that much older.
Did you feel like it was a supportive atmosphere that Rich gave
Yeah,
you?
definitely. Yeah, like a granddad of the dressing room.
Yeah.
Dreadful bad.
Like a wise old wizard of the dressing room. But how was that experience at Brentford?
Yeah, no, loved it. Again, had a little bit of a shaky start, but I think once obviously Mark Warburton took over as manager, I think that's when I really kicked on, and yeah, I love my 3 years there.
Are we starting to see now? You were 24 when you went to Brentford. 3 seasons, nearly 150 appearances. That was your start as a goalkeeper. Is that becoming a common thing now, that keepers, until they're about 24, 25, actually get given a proper go?
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's just unless you get extreme circumstances. But yeah, I think that's definitely becoming more common. I just think the amount of pressure that managers are under, and the sort of the cutthroat business that it's become, that for them to risk putting a younger, inexperienced goalkeeper in, for them is always going to be harder than choosing the older, safer option. So I think that's, I think it's going to become a thing that, yes, the goalkeepers are going to start their careers probably later than outfield players do.
Oh, Keeper Capers. So before we carry on with our chat, it's time to do this week's Keeper Capers, the part of the show where we focus on a slightly unfortunate moment in the life of a goalkeeper. This week, Wigan's keeper Christian Walton, Rich.
Yeah, and interestingly, the fact that we've got David Button here, Christian Walton on loan from Brighton, he's actually built a really good name for himself, and I get a lot of information through on him, and a lot of people talking about him having had a very, very good season so far, certainly one of the top performers in the Championship. That being said, a moment in the game today against Leeds, 1-1, and it was an error from him to make it 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
Although, interestingly, we have got David Button with us, who will be giving Christian's side of it, I'm sure.
For sure, yeah.
So you've seen the goal. What was your thoughts on the
You're
goal?
like his lawyer.
For those that haven't seen, the ball's come in on a bit of an angle. Obviously, Christian Walton's come out to try and smother it. It's squirmed out through his hands, and it ended up being an easy tap-in for Leeds to make it 2-1, which eventually was the winning goal. But you've got your thoughts on this, David.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, just to reiterate what you said, I think all the feedback that's come from him is that he's had a really good season and has won Wigan a lot of points so far. So credit to him, and I don't think he's made many of these types of errors so far. Obviously, looking at it, it's a goal he's going to be disappointed with. But for me, first of all, he's being really positive, so that shows a sign of his confidence and the level of his game and where he's at the moment. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it's one of them where he's given the defender a shout, and he's put him off somehow. I think his like slight movement towards the ball has, and I'm sure we've all been there. I don't know. It's just put that little something or taken his eye off the ball. So for me, it's just unfortunate and one of those things, and I'm sure he'll bounce back and be stronger for it. Interesting.
You find that a lot, and I've seen it, and I actually do tend to agree, of course, because I think it's hard to explain unless you've actually been in that position where, and I'm trying to think of another similar, don't look at me like that, Joe.
99, no one who's played in goal will look at that and think that slight movement from the defender is going to have got in his head slightly, but everyone just think, oh my God, what's the goal?
Do you know, I'm trying to give a similar, I'll tell you
no...
actually a really famous similar one. Okay, well, it's not similar, but it is, right? Was when Paul Robinson, don't keep humming at me and looking at me like, you'll remember this, when Paul Robinson scored against Ben Foster.
I do remember it well.
Now, if you watch that goal again, I think it was Danny Shitu, looks like he's about to go for the header, then last minute leaves it, So obviously Ben Foster's made his movement based on that, and then obviously the ball bounces over him and goes in the goal, and it looks quite a bad goal. It is quite a bad goal.
Matt just looked at me really slowly, then looked back at you and just shook his head.
No, but because that's honestly, I'm with you on a lot of this, but I think that's clutching at straws. And I think this particular incident, I completely understand what you're saying. I think a lot of people will argue and say if a goalkeeper is going for a ball like that, he's just got to clean everybody up in his way. Mm-hmm. He's got to take everything with him. So that's where people go, what's the keeper doing there? From a non-goalkeeper's perspective, I think that's what the argument would be. But of course,
the movements of those defenders, the movements of those around you, is going to impact what you do. That classic one where a free kick gets whipped in at the far post and goes in the far post. Of course, if the goalkeeper just goes for the ball, he makes a save, but he's also reacting to what the defenders are doing, what the strikers are doing.
In case he takes a ricochet.
Yeah.
Or something. Okay.
So similarly here, when your defender's reacting in that way and making that kind of movement, it's going to alter your decision slightly or maybe just put you off.
I do take your point. I will say, if you concede a goal from 75 yards from the opposition goalkeeper, I'm sorry, I'm pinning that on you.
Look, this is the goalkeepers' union, okay? No, look, he Ben knows that was a mistake himself, but if you watch it again, it explains it, if nothing else. And it's the same with this. If you just look at it based on the fact that he's gone to smother the ball and it's squirmed through his hands, yes, it's an error, but other things are taking place at the same time.
Yeah, we'll be back with more Keeper Capers next week. Oh, Keeper Capers. Talk about Fulham. So at Fulham, obviously, they're now in the Premier League. I mean, leaky to say the least. I think they're shipping a lot of goals. And while you were there, you became second choice to Bettinelli, didn't you? How was your time at Fulham?
Yeah, I get asked this a lot recently since I've moved. I think I still look back at it as quite a successful period, as obviously I was there 2 years and it resulted in me playing 60 out of 90 odd games. First season was playoff, second season was promotion, so obviously I lost my place the second half of last season, but I still feel like I played my part and was involved in the success that we had there.
Obviously, moving on to Brighton as well. Then now, what's I suppose the difference? I'm really interested in the difference between approaches. So obviously, you've got Slavisa Jokanovic and then Chris Hughton. They seem like dramatically different guys. How has the experience been different for you?
Yeah, it's obviously slightly different from a goalkeeper because we've got our own coach and our own sort of group that we focus on away from the team.
So you don't spend that much time with the head coach or the manager?
Not really.
Really?
No, not really. We got.
Mate, I'm the same. I didn't realise that. I think that's fascinating. Well, this is what's fascinating about goalkeepers, right? The fact that you do. I mean, the fact that you are a union, you have your own little pack. Every team has a WhatsApp group. Do you guys have a little goalkeeper WhatsApp group?
Of course they do.
You do?
Yeah, we do.
Yes. Where you slag off all the outfield players.
Yeah. Just post all the latest gloves.
I was going to say, what gloves you got? These are sweet.
Yeah. What gloves are you wearing? No, right. Let's change the subject.
But no,
yeah.
That's a decent point. I bet there's probably not a striker's WhatsApp group or a midfielder's WhatsApp group.
Well, there might be, but we don't want to be involved. What you tend to find, genuinely, goalkeepers are normally slightly more intelligent, and I mean that like in a nice way, but slightly more intelligent than outfield players. And there's so much you need to calculate at any given moment, and so much you need to do. You need to be, you need to be very intelligent now, I think, to be a top-level goalkeeper. I think it's becoming more and more for the outfield player as well. I think that you don't see the cliche of the thick footballer. I think that's dead. And goalkeeping, you need to be intelligent to be a top-level goalkeeper. I can guarantee, and I think I know this, I don't know, you did really well at like GCSEs and all that kind of stuff, didn't you?
Yeah.
Was it all A's?
Pretty much, yeah.
No, but you tend to find that with a lot of the top goalkeepers, they're very intelligent.
How did you get on in your O-levels, Rich?
Anyway, what's the final section? And the fact that you've called them O-levels, I'm not...
I assumed.
Right, we're not even going to go there. Right. I want to bring this back to goalkeeping, so I want to ask you, actually. Okay. Yeah, we're just glossing over that. Like your game, you were, in my opinion, you were a bit before your time. Like I remember when you came onto the scene, when you came to Brentford, the fact that you got the side volley, the way you distribute a ball, that wasn't something I worked on, certainly coming through. But obviously you've focused on a lot of areas in your game that not a lot of goalkeepers your age were focusing on at that time. Was that you yourself when you were a kid, or was that the likes of Tony Parks?
Yeah, I'd say I was lucky to work with... obviously Parksy, but obviously Perry Suckling as well, who had a lot from the academy at Spurs. But I suppose it goes back to touching on the loans as well. That I've had however many loans, and I've had however that many coaches as well. So if you can pick up little bits from each of them, and obviously we're obviously lucky with the Premier League now that we've got some of the best goalkeepers in the world that we can all watch and learn from. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I was probably not consciously thinking of it, to be honest, but yeah, it sort of happened. Probably the intelligence that you go back to. Yeah, just learning and picking up things, certainly from watching and training with goalkeepers that I've been lucky enough to work with.
And what do you see as being your biggest strength as a goalkeeper?
I've probably always said crossing and kicking are my probably two biggest technical. I don't know what the word is. Attributes, yes. Yeah. Thank you.
That's those O
There you
levels.
go.
There you go.
Attributes. And then probably I also like to think that I've got quite a calming and positive effect on people around me as well. So they're probably the attributes that I'd pick.
I suppose my last question to you, because I know we've got a couple of other bits and pieces I see on the sheet in front of me. Obviously, we'll have a lot of kids listening to the show, a lot of young goalkeepers, and it's the sort of question you'll always ask at the end of an interview. What advice would you give to young goalkeepers that want to make it in today's game?
I think for me now, knowing what I know, I think obviously anybody that's going to be listening to this is enough of a goalkeeping enthusiast for me to say something generic like work hard or, I don't know, work on your technique and stuff like that. But for me, it's just to pay real attention to the mental side of the game. I think it's something that obviously I owe you a lot for, to be honest. And I wish that I'd probably paid more attention to it earlier, because I just think it's just so important now with just the way the game's gone, like you say, the way that we're expected to play, but also the scrutiny that we're put under. I think it's just a unique position that you need to be really mentally tough to be prepared for.
I didn't tee him up for that.
I was just gonna say.
You were looking at him just like, yep, this
There we
is
go.
yeah.
Remember what we spoke about?
Every week, Matt and Rich insist that we do a feature called The Locker Room.
Okay.
This is where we explore what happens behind closed doors in the locker room. So, what's the strangest thing you've ever seen in a changing room?
Don't say Rich.
Yeah, apart from Rich's clothes.
Whoa.
Hasn't changed.
How explicit can we go?
We can go
how
explicit.
young are we going?
We can go explicit.
We're not going to talk about you and Jack Bonham and some of the things that used to get on. We're not going to touch on that.
No,
Okay. That's
that was
probably
tame.
best. That we, yeah.
What are we talking?
No, we're not going there. Go on, what you got?
I won't go too bad, but I've seen someone urinating in the shower and another teammate taking it upon themselves to then lay on the floor and sort of bathe themselves in the...
I remember this.
Yeah.
Wow.
The thing is,
Suddenly gone X-rated.
no, there are worse things than that, but he's
Yeah,
right.
there are.
We can't.
For what purpose?
Just a few laughs, I think, yeah.
Funny.
A few brownie points.
This is the
dressing room.
intelligent. Oh no, this isn't the
This is the outfield.
Yeah,
players.
there
This is
we
what I
go.
mean. This is where they
Right.
kind of like, they're the performing monkeys,
Yeah.
you know, and we're just there smiling and laughing.
You were there with your quill and ink in the corner going, no, writing another, I don't know, opera. What do people do? You can tell I'm not an intelligent man. I couldn't think of a thing that intelligent people do. Do you know what? I think that is a good anecdote to leave it on. Just bathing in your teammates' urine. We know football players get close, but that is really taking it to another level. David Button, thank you very much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure, thank you.